making $153 trading the NASDAQ, or in this case, TQQQ. Welcome on into recap. That hurt. I cut myself this past weekend, and clapping. I love clapping. Like you'll see, and that's just clapping all day. Now I can't until this heals because it's still kind of an open wound. But that said, I feel like it's been a while. It's been a while. Let me, before we get into it, YouTube, in case this channel ever gets monetized, let me just confirm we're in the Webull dashboard. We're in it. I don't know how else to confirm it. 153.27. Okay, I'm not going to update you. 150. Here's TQs. Okay, we're here. We just did it. Okay, trading records. Can you see that? Am I blocking it out? I might be. Let me get out of the way. Okay, here it is. Okay, 714, 729. Took about 2 weeks, but actually a little over 2 weeks. Well, I didn't want that. Sorry. So here's the Webull account, by the way. Let me just pull. We just look at this. So here's the account. I'll go to P&L over the past month, 3 months. I don't know. I started trading this account, I guess, back in June, so it hasn't been that long. It's up $365 in P&L. So cumulatively, we made about 8%, which is pretty sick, I guess. And I'm looking at that, and I say to myself, it's kind of high based off my percentage-wise. It's kind of high. You know, like I know the reality is that like my strategy probably will not be able to continue to do that pace. You know, like this is a month and a half. You know what I mean? Like if you extrapolate that out, like we're not making 8% every month and a half, which the compound effect of that would be insane. Just not. It's just I'm gonna be complete. I mean, it's not reality. But the account value has gone up. See these chunks? These chunks have been deposits. So we started the account. Well, it had nothing in it, and then we put in, I guess, 1,000 or 900. And then I put in an additional couple thousand or a little over 1,000, 1,600. And then I just put in 300 more. And I'm now setting up recurring deposits on the account because I've just got to figure out my finances. So I've set up some recurring deposits. So now the account's here. We are swing trading. So when you look at the buying power, I'm looking at this overnight buying power right here, which is $6,720. And I guess it depends upon the assets exactly that you're looking at to trade. So that number has been going up because once you get over $2,000, they give you margin access, and that's cool. So hopefully rates come down. And if rates come down, I guess margin would be cheaper, which is even cooler, which makes it easier to trade and not have to worry about it. But the idea here, day trade buying power is a lot. They give you like 4x. This is a 2x. So the idea here is really just like, you know, now we can take swing trades with sizing of I wouldn't max it out. I'll maybe go to $6,000 max on swing trade sizing. So we can kind of do the math on that, and I'll explain some examples here, and we'll talk about that in a second. But let's just talk about this trade recap really quick. So made 153, and if I dive into it here on TradeZella, which by the way, if you want to check out TradeZella, hit them up, sign up for an account. You get a discount code TC10. I'll link it below. Like always, you always can do that. I just talked to them recently. They reached out. They want to talk about, hey, like, you've been using the product. You've been referring people to the product. Like, what do you think of it? What do you want us to do? I've given my feedback. So if you have any feedback, any thoughts, questions, I do have a contact there. Leave it in the comments. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, this is not like, seriously, like I can tell them, like, because I don't use every asset or every feature. Like, I use the things that work for me. They have a lot more. But yeah, if you ever have any questions, hit me up in the comments. And I could literally tell the guys like at TradeZella, like, yo, fix this, or yo, people want this, like which is cool. So whatever reason, the chart's not loading. But essentially what I put down here on this thing, you can see it all. I played CQs instead of Qs to get a bit more leverage in this trade. Held me back a bit because of decay, because when you trade TQs, you're going to have some decay to deal with. But it wasn't a huge deal. 1 day time frame, bull flag set up early. Here's the NASDAQ futures, I guess, the chart that I was watching. And we had this line right here. We broke above it here back on the 14th. That was the 14th. And essentially took out profits here. Now, I didn't get the exact target that I was looking for. I was looking for a bit more on this. Reasoning why is because I just so happened to take a peek at this guy right here, which I haven't really been looking at, to be honest, and I should be doing more of. But I just checked this out and I said, okay, what's going on news wise? I knew we have some big earnings on like Wednesday, Thursday this week. So I knew that mostly on Thursday. I think there's a lot of big ones, but we got employment numbers Wednesday morning. We have GDP Wednesday morning, and then we have the FOMC interest rate decision, which I don't believe is going to mean much. I don't think so. Let me just dive into this. I think we're pretty set in stone here of what we're going to get from the Fed. So I don't think we see a surprise by the data. Yeah, it's literally like a 96.9% chance that they're not going to do anything, which, okay, cool. So like they're not going to cut rates just because Trump's saying cut rates. But I think the next meeting in September is where they're expecting a cut. Yeah, September, we're expecting a cut as of now based off the probabilities. So, okay, the point is though, I think that this is pretty set, but at the same time, Jerome Powell speaks, shit happens. I don't want to mess with that. And then the next day, the next day is PCE data. It's like, dude, I don't know. Earnings all coming out. You know, I take a look at the overall, like, I'll look at Qs here. I look at this thing and I'm like, okay, dude, you know, I'm looking back and saying, hey, I've been in this trade for a while. We had this little break. Yeah, I've been in for 2 weeks. You know, we just shy of our target today. Would it make sense, or would I be pissed at myself if I was to hold through a GDP, employment numbers, a PCE, and earnings, a Fed speaker, and then we come back to break even, you know, and fall all the way back? In case I'd be like, that's dumb. We got like 90%, 95% of the way to the target. Let's just lock it in. So that was the thought process behind it. Is all it is. So yeah, you can say, oh, you know, you didn't trade the plan perfectly, and I didn't. You know, it never is perfect. But I'm not holding through that stuff. I don't have to. I don't want to. I have a hair, dude. I have a hair. It's disgusting. I had a hair in my mouth that whole time, and I could feel it, and I was like trying to talk through it, but I couldn't. I just had to get it out. But yeah, so that was the thing. This trade probably could have been bigger. I also didn't really trade it with huge size. I traded 32 shares of TQs. So let's do some math, because I want to just dive into some of this stuff. So let's do some math here. And TQs is technically a 3x on QQQ. So if I just jump into, let's say, let me go to like a 4-hour time frame and zoom this in to like when we got that breakout on the Qs. So I was essentially playing this move. Was this move? Where's this move? Where's the 14th? Oh shit, no, dude, I'm out of sorts here. It was this move right here, pretty much. So I essentially get in at this point in time on Qs, and QQQ essentially has gone approximately 5% from that entry or from that breakout point that I had marked off, whereas TQQQ from that point did about 16%. So you say, oh wow, you know, cool. 32 shares. Let's just make sure that the math is mathing here. 32 shares of this bad boy times like $5 was like the move. Gets you, yeah, it was like just shy of a $5 move. So that's about what we're looking at. So 16% is pretty decent. Do I need to trade TQs in the future? Probably not anymore, because based off the sizing I'm looking at, I was kind of trading this like I was trading my 10K funded accounts. That's kind of been the sizing I've been trading with on these past like 2 trades. But now that we've got essentially 6K of buying power. So if I was to trade with $6,000 of buying power and I got a 5% move, okay, we're looking at, in terms of profits, of $300, which is a bump from what we were just, you know, our last 2 trades were like 200 or like 197 and then 150. So now now I don't really think I don't feel as if I have to trade the TQs. I think at the point that I entered that TQ trade, I had money that I had deposited that hadn't settled yet, or that I didn't get the buying power, the overnight buying power. So I was stuck to kind of say, well, I can get the trade now. I can enter the trade now with whatever's in my account. And at the time, whatever was in my account, I just felt as if for a 5% move on QQQ, let's say I had $2,500 in the account of buying power, something along those lines. If I was to look for a 20 or a 5% move on that, it was $125, and I was like, I could take less and make more. And the intention was probably to make closer to $200 in this TQQQ trade, but I think that there was some decay. There's a piece of decay that plays a role into this. But I don't think I need to trade this anymore. I don't need to play the leverage products. Depending upon exactly what I'm looking at, I might, or if I have multiple positions open. Doesn't happen super often. Could. But I think going forward, we're just going to be rolling with just trading the straight shares of whatever we're looking at, and pretty much finding an ETF for anything. So like, you want to play gold, silver, like you can find ETFs for those, Bitcoin, ETFs for those, that are going to pretty much model everything. So that's what we're going to do. And I don't think I have to really worry about that anymore. But I mean, do the math. I mean, on now, I guess, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, like that 16% move on TQs, if you trade with that, with even just $5,000 now, times a 0.16, you're looking at $800 profits. So that's pretty freaking good. The reason why I mentioned that is because now, as I'm looking at other trade opportunities, I kind of find myself in that ballpark of like, 5 to 10% on these swing trades. Some things, if I'm playing a riskier stock, you go to like more of those higher tech names and stuff like that, those smaller cap, mid cap stocks. I'm say small cap, mid cap stocks. For example, this Amazon trade right here is about a 5% move. I didn't trade this, I just mapped it out. This would have been about a 5% move. Same thing as the Qs pretty much. So I played the Qs. I like that trade better. But if I happen to play the Amazon, it could have been about a 5% move. So same thing. I don't feel as if I need to trade with more size than that. For a move that would be smaller than 5%, yeah, for like a day trade. But then at the same time, you've got higher day trade buying power. So long story short, what I'm trying to get at here is I'm backing my way into just slowly leveling the size up. And in doing so smart, but also because it's tough, because when you start doing this, it's like, you could just keep trading with larger size, but I also have to say, like, I know that now my next trade can be with larger size from the past two, because I've been building the account up. But if I do just throw in $6,000 into the next trade and it loses, well, now I'm going to take a pretty decent size loss. I am. And the reality is, at the same time, like, I'm not going to keep winning. My win rate this month, I've taken 2 trades. It's okay. It's 100%. Yeah. Okay. No shit. Okay, cool. But I also know year to date that my win rate is now at 50%. Literally exactly. That's pretty sick. It's literally 50%. And I know that, like, the reality behind my strategy is that's what I want it to be. I want it to be around there, but I know the past 2 years it's been around 45. So I'm like, okay, we might have a bit of a reversion to the mean at some point, or, the second half of this year. So let's not be dumb and start just saying, okay, well, now every time I place a trade, I can just trade with huge size. Like, no, we're going to scale it up slow and steady, undress. But that's the thing. Like my view is like, take it easy. I'm going to be depositing money. I had like an epiphany, you can say, yesterday, where I was thinking, okay, I'm making money. I have still student loans I've been paying off. We've been accelerating them. They're moving nicely. But my thought process, I was literally just like deep in like my own thoughts yesterday. I was like, what makes more sense? Do we sit back and say, let's deposit more money into the Webull account, because we have a proven strategy the past 2 years, 2.5 years now. Like, we've got a almost 2.5 years. We've got a legitimate strategy, tracked it for the past 2.5 years. It works. Like, I'm just slow and steady. Like, that's it. The problem is that I don't trade very frequently anymore. So, I've come to find that A, does better for me mentally, and then B, at the same time, like, you can't compound. Whereas, let's say someone is trading every single day and they're profitable. Few and far between people who make that. But if you get to that point where you're profitable every single day, and now you're compounding on average, like, a few percent per week or a few percent per month, the compound effect of that is going to be insane. Whereas I talked about at the beginning, like my account is up 7 point something percent, almost 8% in the past month and a half. It's like, well, yeah, P&L wise, yeah, that's sick, but I know I'm not going to keep that up. It's not going to happen. You're going to have losses in there, and then you're going to have a dry streak, or you're going to have periods where there's no trades. So it's going to happen. So, but my thought process was, okay, like, you spent fucking 6 years, 5 years, I don't know how many years it's been. You spent a lot of time, on this trading stuff. You finally got to the point where, like, you're kind of just dialed in. Like, I just do this. This is just a thing I do. I don't really think too much of it. I don't get sweaty palms. I don't shit my pants, thinking about trades. I don't fall asleep at night thinking about the trades. I literally have been in this trade for 2 weeks, 2 weeks. We could have had some huge, horrible news overnight at some point. I don't care. I sleep like I don't even think about it. I don't even think about it. Maybe when I wake up and take a shit, I think about it. I'm like, oh, let me just check in how we doing here on the charts, because it hasn't been moving so slow. But I'm at that point where it's like, this has just become like, I've got the routine, I've got the strategy so dialed to the point where, yeah, is it the most successful thing? No. Like, is it going to be super flashy? Is it going to be like, oh my God, I make 17% every single day, I make all this money every day? No, I don't. I don't. But it just works over the course of a large sample size of trades. Shout out Mark Douglas. He kind of drilled that one into my head. Rip. But like at the same time, like, dude, you just rip this, like roll with this for the next 2 years, 3 years, 4, like, you know, it's like, this isn't like, you've gone through so much shit to finally get to the point of like, you feel good about it. And not even that, like, I'm worried about, oh, things are going to change. You know what I mean? The market will adjust. You have to adapt. But same thing. I'm confident in my ability to adapt because I've been doing that the past 2.5 years while I've been profitable in the strategy. So it's like, you're going to always slowly adapt. That's just part of the game. So my point being is that I just got to that point last night where I was like, you know what? Not fuck the loans, but it's like, I'm paying the minimum and some. I'm paying like about double the minimum payment on my loans. So they're going to be paid off faster than, they've already been getting paid off faster than like the time frame of the loan that you select. But my thought is like, let's instead of taking, you know, an extra $500, an extra $1,000 and put it on the loans, it might make sense to toss it in this account. It might make sense to toss it in the account, build that up, get it to a really solid point. And, you know, one day you'll have a nice chunk of change to pull out. I'm also using this account, to be honest, as a place where it's like, if I have any tax situation, I'll pull from here too. So if I got to pay more in taxes than I anticipated, I'll be using this guy. But I still want to build this up. So that's the plan. That's the thought process. If you're still watching, I really appreciate you. If this channel ever gets monetized, YouTube, I don't know what else to tell you in terms of, you know, it's not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm showing you the recaps. I'm showing you the losers, the winners. Go back and look at all the losers too. Not trying to mislead anything here. So thanks so much, guys. See you in the next one. Peace.